My name is Cecile. Just the other day, my elementary school-aged daughter surprised me by asking, "Mom, can you teach me how to do makeup?" I'm 39. Girls these days seem so mature for their age. Now that I think about it, as a little girl, I was thrilled with inexpensive candies that came with pretty toy necklaces, or lipsticks from capsule toy machines. It feels like just a moment ago I was changing her diapers, and now she's on her way to becoming a beautiful young lady. Oops, almost brought myself to tears. Today, I'm going to talk about back when I was a bit more of a beauty myself. Please, listen if you'd like. This was about 8 years ago. I had just finished a month-long stay at my parents' home in preparation for giving birth, and returned to the home where I lived with my husband, Tommy, baby in arms. I thought we were starting our happy life as a family of 3, but it turned out to be a family of 4. Yes, for some reason, my mother-in-law Melinda, who was supposed to be at her own house, was there to greet me. I was told, "I thought my son wouldn't manage on his own, so I moved in to help." Well, maybe a man alone would struggle with daily life. Not being there, I thought, maybe that's just how it is, and thanked my Melinda for taking care of my husband. She seemed quite pleased, saying, "I'm honored to have been of help." And as I entered the house, everything was neat and the air was clear. Perhaps it was good she lived with us. But then, a problem arose. My overseas brand wedding ring, which I had to remove and store away because it no longer fit during pregnancy, was nowhere to be found. It was supposed to be in the bedroom drawer. Where's the ring? My overseas brand, where did it go? I searched everywhere, only to find something even stranger. My overseas brand bag was missing. The bag I had saved up for and bought with much effort before I was married. Wait a minute. Even the shoes from an overseas brand I'd splurged on as a birthday gift to myself were missing. Now, the ring is one thing, but it's really strange for such large items to disappear. After all, I only used them on special occasions and hardly ever moved them from their storage. Feeling something was off, I hurried back to the living room and asked Melinda, "Melinda, did you tidy up the bedroom closet?" "What's the rush?" "I haven't touched the bedroom," she replied. If Melinda didn't tidy up, then it must have been stolen, right? "So, have you noticed anything missing? Was there anything unusual while I was away?" I asked. However, both my husband and Melinda, avoiding eye contact, denied anything was amiss. "Nothing happened, right, Mom?" Yes, it was all normal. I told the two, who were speaking so strangely, my wedding ring, brand name bag, and shoes are missing. My bedroom was burglarized. Melinda, surprised, asked, "Are you sure you looked everywhere? Are you sure you looked everywhere?" In my panic, I could only nod at Melinda while frantically calling the police on my mobile phone. "Hello, is this the police? I've been burglarized. The situation and address?" What are you calling the police for?" Melinda shouted at me, clearly upset by the police's questions. Caught off guard by her scolding, I froze, staring blankly. The woman on the phone kept asking, "What's going on?" "Oh, sorry, you needed the situation and address, right?" While feeling Melinda's disgruntled gaze, I relayed the details to the police. In less than 10 minutes, 2 police officers arrived at our home. They wanted to see the room where the theft occurred. However, Melinda kept insisting, "It's a misunderstanding, please leave. It's a misunderstanding, please leave." Even if it were a misunderstanding, things were indeed missing. Both supposed to be victims in the house, I went pale at the thought of strangers entering our home. While Melinda was red-faced, angrily saying, "We don't need the police." Even my husband was trying to calm me down, saying, "It's just a ring or 2, it's fine." "Just a ring or 2? That's our treasured ring we bought together, it's irreplaceable," I retorted, while the police officer watched me intently. "All right, ma'am, could you please show me the room? Your husband and mother-in-law can stay in the living room, we'll talk to them." With that, The older police officer asked the younger one to handle my husband and Melinda, while guiding me to the bedroom. Melinda was still furiously saying, "Don't just go looking around someone's house." After all, this house, though in my husband's name, is also my home. By that logic, Melinda could have been told the same about intruding in someone's house. Of course, Melinda didn't seem to realize that. Confused by their behavior, the older officer asked me, "Have you been living with your mother-in-law all this time?" "No, I went back to my parents' home for childbirth. I just returned today and found out Melinda had been living here while I was gone." Did your husband ever discuss letting his mother stay here with you? No, I didn't agree to that. I see. Before you went to your parents, were the missing items here? They were. I don't have proof for the ring and bag, but I have a photo of the shoes. I was thinking of selling them secondhand. See, the saved date on the data is exactly a month ago. Right, so it must have been lost after you went to your parents' house, the police officer said, narrowing his eyes as if piecing something together. Let's take a look at the room, he suggested. I led the officer to the bedroom and explained again where the missing items had been stored. While complying with the fingerprint collection, the officer asked, "What's that?" He pointed to a handkerchief on the shelf, unfamiliar to me. It wasn't mine or my husband's. I thought, that shelf is where we keep our favorite photos and paintings, and my husband knows I always keep it tidy. I've never seen his handkerchief placed there. I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't notice it until you mentioned it. It wasn't there before I went to my parents' house. Missing valuables, yet unfamiliar items appearing. If this isn't creepy, what is? Feeling frightened, the officer asked, "May I check this a bit more?" I answered, "Please do." This has a camera hidden in it. What? Surprised, I watched as the officer unfolded the handkerchief on his palm, revealing a small camera tucked inside. For what espionage? Let's look around the room a bit more. The officer, calm amidst my confusion, checked other drawers, different from where the missing items were stored. Found it. He pulled out a cable from a drawer near my husband's side of the bed. The cable fit the small camera he had found earlier. The mother's behavior is a bit suspicious, but the husband seems fishy too, the officer said with a wry smile. I, unable to grasp the situation, asked, "What do you mean? Your husband might have installed this camera. We found a cable for playback," he explained. What? For what purpose? I'd like to check the video. Can I use that computer? He asked, pointing to my husband's laptop. Confused, yet hoping to uncover the truth, I agreed. Sure, go ahead. The officer connected the camera to the laptop with practiced ease. The laptop seemed to recognize the camera, and a menu opened up. The officer selected some command and chose a random file from a folder. To our shock, the video displayed our bedroom. I went with the officer to the living room, where my husband and Melinda were waiting. Melinda immediately complained. Really now? You making a fuss and calling the police? We had to undergo questioning, felt like criminals. It's so upsetting. My husband, too, was in a foul mood. Making a big deal out of nothing. Enough, whose fault is this? In anger, I slammed my hand on the living room table. I'm still recovering from giving birth, and they made me run around and panic like this. I was seething. How dare you act so brazenly after what you've done? I know everything now. Look at this. I took the laptop from the officer, opened the screen, and played the video we'd just seen. My husband and Melinda gasped. Huh? As they saw themselves on the screen, rummaging through the bedroom shelves, taking my ring and bag and leaving. In the video, my husband was telling Melinda, "With the money from selling these, we can both have some fun." Melinda was laughing. Who would have thought she had such sellable items? It's hard to prosecute F.A. Melinda living together for theft, she said. Mom, you're amazing. So knowledgeable. So shameless, even when their misdeeds are pointed out. Not only did they not feel guilty, but their conversation suggested they were proud of their cunning. I thought I was targeted because I happened to have brand name items, but who would have guessed the culprits were inside the house? My agitation and anger grew, while my husband looked scared. Melinda still didn't think she did anything wrong. In fact, she kept denying it, despite being clearly seen in the video. Okay. Since you insist, let's watch this, I said, playing a different video. Oh, come on. What about your wife? If that's the case, aren't you okay with your husband? On the screen, Melinda was intimately engaged with a much younger man. Maybe in his 30s, on a bed. It's okay, I only need you, Rocky. My husband is nothing to me. I'm so happy. But, you know, my wife has been cutting my allowance again. Again? What an incapable wife. Don't worry, I'll give you some money. Melinda then wrapped her arms around the young man's neck, embracing him. It was as if she was trying to absorb the youthfulness from the younger man. Though I hadn't seen it before, it looked like something straight out of a club scene. Thank you, Melinda. I love you. You're so sweet. Seeing the video of Melinda's alluring voice and actions, even my husband couldn't help but look away. The young police officer looked queasy, as if he was about to say, "Ugh," and the older officer quietly scolded him. Hey, stop it. Don't show such nonsense, Melinda yelled, her face turning bright red. My husband, perhaps feeling it was none of his concern, seemed about to laugh at Melinda losing her usual composure. Really, Tommy? You think it's funny? Huh? Please watch this too. I played another video. I love Nancy the most. Then another. I've never loved anyone but Anna, just kidding. How was it? Good. And another. Ashley, stroke my head. Hearing this, the young police officer burst into laughter beyond control, while the older one scolded him again. In the video, Ashley was stroking my husband's head, asking, "How many others are you seeing?" My husband responded like a script. Only you, Ashley. Liar. At this point in the video, there were already 3 women, and including those I just checked, at least 8. Really? I love you, Tommy. So, about that. I know. You mean the bag, right? Don't worry, I make good money. I'll get you a gift. Yay! This pattern repeated with the other women. Apparently, my husband had been leading a life where he gave women gifts in exchange for letting him secretly film their encounters. What a hobby. You might have noticed, he's making a huge loss buying brand name items for each video. And the only video showing Melinda's actions was that one. It seems the recording button was accidentally left on, capturing the moment Melinda stole my things and her own actions. Rest assured, it's not some peculiar hobby to watch Melinda's actions, or maybe not. Melinda and my husband, embarrassed and exposed even to the police, were pale and slumped in defeat. But it wasn't over yet. Just as I thought this, the intercom rang. They're here, I said. Melinda looked at me with a tired face. Ignoring her gaze, I went to the entrance and welcomed Bruce. Seeing Bruce, Melinda lost her words and screamed. Seems like you were cheating in your son's house, huh? Cecile told me. No. It's not like that. What do you mean it's not? Cecile, could you play the video? With pleasure. After casting a cold glance at the bewildered Melinda, Bruce burst into loud laughter as he watched her flirtatious video. An old woman like this, seducing a young man for money, aren't you ashamed? Ahahaha. Oh, my stomach hurts from laughing. What? I thought Bruce would be shocked by the video, but his unexpected reaction surprised me. You're just a wallet to him, clearly after your money. Pathetic. Ahahaha. Bruce laughed uproariously, clapping his hands. Melinda, embarrassed, blushed furiously, her previously defiant attitude gone. Ah, that was funny. Let's see my sons too. Let's see how much he's grown, Bruce said, laughing while focusing on a particular part of my husband in the video. After watching all the infidelity videos, Bruce commented with a straight face. Both mother and son, letting young people take their money. Beyond disappointing, it's pitiful. Needless to say, Melinda and my husband would have preferred being laughed at. What we learned from questioning was that Melinda accidentally found out about my husband's affairs. She kept it secret in exchange for using our house to meet her own lover. For Melinda, it was embarrassing to be seen with a much younger man, and her lover, lacking money and having a wife, couldn't easily find places to meet. For my husband, having the freedom to invite girls he met online without going out was cheaper and more convenient. Thus, Melinda and my husband, keeping each other's affairs secret, turned this house into their paradise of indulgence. Becoming accomplices. Their arrangement worked by one leaving the house while the other met their lover. Melinda never imagined the videos would be accidentally recorded. I'm sorry, Cecile. Bruce. I'll return the money, do anything, please, forgive me. Me too, Cecile. I'll change, do anything, please forgive me. Melinda and my husband begged, bowing their heads. Bruce and I exchanged glances and laughed. You'll do anything, right? Indeed, anything? They both answered. Of course. To our question. Then let's divorce. What? Our simultaneous declaration to divorce left my husband and Melinda in shock. You said you'd do anything, right? Let's get a divorce. No, wait, anything but that, please. No way. Bruce, without hesitation, refused Melinda's desperate pleas and deep apologies. The divorce was not retracted. My husband, too, was crying and deeply apologizing, but I did not withdraw the divorce either. Thus, only hours after returning from my parents' home post-childbirth, my divorce was decided upon, under police supervision. Later, I had my husband pay me the same amount as the sold items as compensation in the divorce trial. Additionally, I demanded double the standard amount for alimony and compensation for infidelity. Why double? I slightly intimidated them by saying, You know, your mistresses seem to be married. I could inform their spouses. This was mainly a bluff, as I didn't even know their names at the time. And it's like I noticed that they're married because of the ring in the video. The threat was effective immediately, given the number of mistresses involved. My husband, terrified at the thought of being sued by each spouse, agreed to pay double the standard amount. Meanwhile, Bruce furiously obtained the lover's contact details from a crying Melinda and called him over. He informed the lover and his wife of the affair, leading to their divorce too. Both spouses demanded compensation from their cheating partners in the divorce trials. Though I promised not to inform the mistress's spouses, I never said I wouldn't demand compensation from the mistresses themselves. After extracting all the communication from my husband's smartphone, I contacted each woman to claim compensation for the affair, which they agreed to pay. Secretly, I was glad my husband had so many mistresses. It turned out to be quite profitable. But, as a single mother without a steady job, I knew I could never have too much money. Turning the harm I suffered into financial compensation didn't erase the damage done. So, with a substantial sum of money, I divorced my husband. 8 years have passed since then. Eventually, my husband ended up paying compensation to his mistress's spouses too. Their husbands, noticing their wives suddenly had a lot of money, grew suspicious. This led to the discovery of the affairs, resulting in some divorces. My husband, now overwhelmed with debt from the numerous compensations, was offered help by a certain woman. A goddess descended, he must have thought. But alas, this woman turned out to be a bad one. He thought they were close to marriage, only to find out she was already engaged to another man. My husband had spent what little money he had on a ring and dates for her, only to end up with a big loss and a broken heart. He never learns. Of course, I can't muster any sympathy for him. Melinda, having proposed marriage to her affair partner after her divorce, was spectacularly rejected. Still, she didn't give up, repeatedly ambushing him on his commute, until she was cautioned under a public nuisance ordinance. Of course, naturally, that was the end of her relationship with her lover, who, as Bruce said, had only seen her as a wallet from the start. Well, everyone should be able to see it. Melinda was the only one who hadn't realized she was being used. It's a laughable tale. As for Bruce, after separating from Melinda and becoming estranged from his son, I worried about him being alone, but it seems the compensation money from the divorce trial sparked an interest in bonsai. Now he's happily involved in a circle with people who share his hobby. That's a relief. Though I didn't expect it, I looked him up and, sure enough, he'd even set up an SNS account. I've discreetly followed you, father-in-law. And me, honestly, fed up with men. Marriage, no more, and still going strong as a single mother. I relied on my parents until my child was old enough for daycare, then started job hunting. Juggling child rearing, it took about a year, but I found a great company that's understanding of single mothers. There are others like me there, so although we sometimes work late, we're usually allowed to leave on time. I used to think single mothers had to work non-stop, but with proper allowances and just my daughter to care for, we live quite normally without extravagant luxuries. There's talk of a promotion when my child reaches middle school. I haven't decided yet, but I want to consider what will make my daughter happiest and my parents too. Despite everything, the joy comes from meals shared with my daughter, and sometimes my parents. Oh, I did well to leave that man. Serves him right. He never even got to be called dad by my adorable daughter. My marriage ended in a crazy way, but as a parent, I still hope my daughter finds a good person and has a happy marriage. Until the day she brings home a wonderful man, I'll do my best as a mother. So, off to work again today. Our daughter Ashley's delivery went smoothly, and we had just returned home that day. Right then, a gift arrived from Ashley's husband, Henry, who couldn't be there for the birth due to work commitments. Though they had been in touch, Ashley clearly missed Henry and eagerly received the package, delighted. Everyone, please enjoy this. I wonder what he sent. Knowing Henry, it must be something I love. Ashley opened the package with pure joy. However, her joy quickly faded as her complexion turned pale upon opening it. As Ashley suddenly fell silent, we all peered into the package. Inside was just a dirty rag. And within, a note simply stating, "Don't come back." What is this? What does it mean? What's this about? Did Henry really send us this? In stark contrast to our shock, my husband, Kevin, visibly angry, threw the rag to the floor. It must be some mistake. It had to be. Surely, this is some kind of mistake. Should we contact Henry? I gently asked the clearly distraught Ashley, who had become silent and looked down, saying nothing more. This was too much for Ashley, who had just gone through childbirth. I couldn't bear to see her so exhausted and upset. But then, an unexpected turn of events was about to unfold. Kevin came home from work earlier than usual, with a somewhat relieved expression. Before I could ask what happened, Kevin spoke. With a deep breath, he grimaced, bit his lip in frustration, and then announced, "It appears that was meant as a warning. My name is Heather. I'm a 57-year-old and I'm supporting my fate as a housewife. Growing up, I was always looking up to my dad, an elite banker. During my school years, I had to be at the top of my class, or Dad would scold me, so my days were filled with nothing but study. Lacking time to play with friends, I led a solitary life at school. Thus, I enrolled in a prestigious university, as Dad suggested. If my grades fell, Dad would threaten not to pay my tuition. However, as I was preparing to find a job, Dad passed away in a car accident. The sudden loss left me utterly lost. Mom grieved daily over Dad's sudden absence. To reassure her, I took a job at a bank. Though Dad was strict, I realized that it was thanks to him I had been so dedicated to my studies. Grateful for this, I was happy to work at the bank, and Mom was overjoyed that I followed in Dad's footsteps. That's where I met someone. Most of my colleagues quickly married and left the job. In our 20s, only women with no desire to marry or those like me, completely dedicated to their work, remained. The bank was a busy place, making it hard to blend in with others around. Even though I was capable at my job, my inability to marry was mocked by my boss. Still, I diligently applied what I had studied in college to my work. Then, one day, after years of this routine, I was introduced to a man by my boss. That man was my husband, Kevin. In the company, he was known as a competent worker, trusted by our boss, and beloved by his colleagues. Being introduced to Kevin, who was cheerful and good-natured, took me by surprise initially. Though we had worked together on several occasions, our interactions had been limited to work-related conversations. The idea of going on a date with him was beyond my expectations. Yet, I found myself accepting his invitation to dine out. Kevin, with his constant SE, turned out to be a very kind and considerate person. Soon after, our relationship progressed swiftly towards marriage. I felt confident that with him, we could build a happy family. Kevin was indeed a wonderful person. Once we decided to marry, we bought a house and embarked on a new life together. Thanks to Kevin's stable income, I left my job to become a housewife. Both of us wanted children eventually. However, reality proved to be harsh, and despite the passage of time, we remained childless. 3 years into our marriage, I was diagnosed with a condition that made it difficult to conceive. The thought that I was the reason we couldn't have children was devastating. But Kevin was there to encourage me, insisting we face the challenge together. With his support, I began fertility treatments. Years passed without success, but finally, after 5 years, our long-awaited wish was granted, and I became pregnant. We were overjoyed at the news of our forthcoming child. Months passed and I gave birth to our beloved daughter. Kevin adored her even more than I did. Once Ashley was born, Kevin made it a point to leave work early, skipping company dinners to come home. Raised with our undivided love, Ashley grew into a very kind child. She was earnest and kind, always sing, just like Kevin. Time flew, and before we knew it, Ashley was a college student. Supporting her desire to help others, we encouraged her as she pursued her studies with enthusiasm. As graduation approached, Ashley expressed her wish to work in the city. While I supported her, Kevin found the idea of her moving away difficult to accept. It's natural for parents to worry about their children. But we encouraged her and Ashley moved to the city. Busy with her job, she seldom returned home, which initially left us feeling lonely. However, we wholeheartedly supported Ashley's dreams. Years went by, and Ashley, now 29, had apparently been promoted at work. Lately, my only joy has been our monthly calls with Ashley. Mom, thanks for always sending packages. It's no problem. How's work going? Are you keeping well? Everything okay? Ashley would always laugh off my worries, seeming a bit troubled by my concern. Mom, you worry too much. I'm 29 now. You don't need to worry so much. But I hardly get to see you, Ashley. It's natural for a parent to worry. Worrying was, after all, a natural thing. But you don't need to worry about me anymore. Despite my concerns, Ashley's voice was full of excitement. What could she mean? Then, taking a deep breath as if bracing herself, Ashley said, "I have someone I want you and Dad to meet." I couldn't hide my surprise at Ashley's words, as she had never introduced us to anyone before. "Who is it? Tell me." "It's a secret until we meet." Ashley, laughing childishly, sounded a bit excited as she hung up. A few days later, Ashley brought a tall man in a suit to meet us. I was surprised, but Kevin, who adores Ashley, was even more so. The idea of Ashley bringing home a boyfriend seemed to shock him. "I never thought she'd actually bring someone home. She used to say she'd marry me when she was little. Ashley is an adult. It's not strange for her to have a boyfriend." Despite my efforts to reassure Kevin, accepting the reality of his beloved Ashley having a boyfriend was hard for him. Sitting close to the man, Ashley introduced him with a happy essay. "This is Henry. He works in landscaping." "I'm Henry. I'm in a committed relationship with Ashley. It's a pleasure to meet you." Henry seemed sincere and serious, and although Kevin was initially wary, they gradually warmed up to each other. Henry grew up in a home without a father after his parents divorced. He had difficulty fitting in and finding opportunities to meet people due to his busy work life. But then he met Ashley. They were introduced by a mutual acquaintance and recently started dating. Ashley was there for Henry, offering support and kindness during tough times at work. With Ashley's support, Henry found himself more engaged in his work than ever before. All thanks to Ashley. She's my savior. Hearing Henry speak so fondly, I was on the verge of tears as a parent. To think that he cherished Ashley so much. Kevin was moved by Henry's words too, and the two of them became close enough to chat about trivial matters. I was convinced that Henry was someone we could entrust our precious Ashley to. The impression of Henry was that good. I was sure that a marriage proposal was on the horizon. Ashley and Henry seemed to trust each other that much. But then, about 6 months later, something unimaginable happened. As usual, I had sent Kevin off to work and was dedicating myself to household chores. When suddenly, my mobile phone rang. Picking up, curious, it was Ashley. A wave of anxiety washed over me, wondering what could have happened. "Ashley, what's up? Calling in the middle of the day like this?" Normally, she would be at work at this time. Yet, Ashley, with a voice not her usual bright self but somewhat darker, said, "I took some leave." "Took leave? Are you not feeling well? What happened?" Ashley seemed hesitant to talk. "Well, there's something I need to talk about." Usually, she would be bright and talk about Henry or her job. But today, her voice was devoid of cheer, sounding somewhat listless. Ashley started talking about something that seemed to be troubling her. Apparently, things weren't going well with Henry's mom. "What do you mean? Didn't you say you went out to eat with her before?" There hadn't been such issues when they first started dating. I had heard they were getting along well with Henry's mom. Yet, what could have happened in just 6 months? I asked Ashley what went wrong. "The truth is, things have never really been good with Henry's mom." She had been trying not to worry us. I wished she had talked to us sooner. But maybe Ashley found it difficult to consult us. Gently asking what happened, Ashley let out a small sigh. "Recently, Henry and I discussed about marriage. Considering our ages, it was time for us to think," she said. I suddenly remembered a call from Ashley a few days ago. She had mentioned then that they were talking about their future. But at that time, her voice was brighter, and she seemed happy talking about it. But it seems that wasn't the case in reality. Ashley mentioned that Henry's mom, Nicole, was being harsh towards her. She had visited Nicole's house several times, but each time she was met with a cold attitude from Nicole. Why would she act like that? Ashley pondered over this and even discussed it with Henry. Henry suggested that Nicole might still be traumatized from when Henry's dad had an affair and left the home during his childhood. Nicole must have felt deep sorrow then and decided to raise Henry alone. I heard that she raised Henry by herself, cherishing him greatly, especially since Henry's grandparents had already passed away. Even now, Nicole supposedly calls Henry several times a week. I can somewhat understand her feelings. Any parent would worry about their precious child. But that doesn't justify her attitude towards Ashley. When asked if she did something wrong, Ashley could only say she didn't know. With marriage talks with Henry underway, it seems Ashley wants to avoid worsening her relationship with Nicole. Ashley said this, looking very downhearted. It was the first time I saw Ashley so troubled. I told her that perhaps she should talk it over with Henry. Though Ashley's voice was somber, sharing her concerns seemed to lighten her heart. She said she would discuss it thoroughly with Henry and try to persuade Nicole to understand. Despite some apprehension, I decided to leave it to Ashley. Then, 9 months later, I received a call from Ashley, her voice bright. Henry proposed to me. She reported her engagement with a joy I hadn't heard before. While I was delighted with the sudden engagement news, Ashley's previous concerns came to mind. When Ashley happily shared her engagement news, I asked about Nicole. Then, Ashley's previously bright voice turned a bit somber as she began to speak. Apparently, Nicole, who dotes on Henry, had not approved of the marriage. Moreover, the engagement announcement seemed to have made Nicole colder towards Ashley. It seemed Nicole felt like Ashley was taking Henry away from her, and despite Henry's attempts to persuade her, it didn't go well. After much deliberation, they decided to go ahead with the marriage despite Nicole's objections. On one hand, I was upset at Nicole for treating Ashley harshly. On the other hand, I felt helpless about not being able to say anything strong to the people Ashley would be dealing with. Reluctantly, I told Ashley, "Let me know immediately if anything happens." They had decided on their new home and were proceeding with the moving arrangements. I wholeheartedly congratulated Ashley and Henry. But then, not long after, Ashley and Henry came to our house saying they had something to discuss. "What's happened?" Kevin asked anxiously. The two exchanged glances and then said happily, "I'm going to be a mom." She showed us an ultrasound photo with a happy expression. There, a still tiny baby was pictured. We were overjoyed, especially Kevin, who was more excited than anyone about the grandchild's arrival. "I can't believe we're going to have a grandchild. There's nothing happier than this." "You're exaggerating. I haven't even fully realized it yet." Ashley, blushing with a shy SA, made me suddenly think of something. It was about Nicole. If she hadn't even accepted their marriage, what would she say upon finding out about the pregnancy? When I asked Ashley about it, Henry, with a stern look, said, "I'll try to convince Mom again." Apparently, Nicole became even harsher towards Ashley after their marriage, and when they announced the pregnancy, she yelled, "Why would you have a child so quickly? That's strange, isn't it? You must have lured Henry into marrying you," Nicole accused. Ashley and Henry insisted that wasn't true, but Nicole wouldn't listen, Ashley said sadly. Henry told Nicole there was no need to be so angry, but she initially wouldn't accept it. However, worried that the constant complaints would burden pregnant Ashley, Henry persuaded Nicole several times, explaining the accusations were baseless. For now, Nicole seems somewhat convinced, but she still harshly blames Ashley. "I can't believe this is happening to you guys. But remember, we are here for you both. give birth to your child in peace. That's right. There's nothing happier than Ashley being pregnant. Encouraged by our strong words, Ashley and Henry nodded with teary eyes. I had heard about mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but never imagined Ashley would experience it. And it was unforgivable that Nicole complained for such strange reasons. But Ashley's trials didn't end there. Since becoming pregnant, Ashley's morning sickness worsened, and she started missing work. I visited Ashley several times and cooked meals for her. But her health didn't improve, and she ended up bedridden, according to Henry. I kept worrying and sending meals to Henry, but he refused to accept more, not wanting to worry us. Amid growing anxiety, several months after the pregnancy announcement, I received an early morning call. It was from Ashley, and I rushed to answer, asking, "What's wrong, Ashley?" Through sobs, Ashley's voice came through. Confused, I listened as she quietly said, "I want to go back home to give birth." Feeling uneasy, I asked why. It seemed Nicole was the cause. Nicole had been calling daily, demanding to divorce her son. She yelled not to have the child, pushing Ashley to her mental limit. "Why didn't you talk to us sooner?" I asked Ashley, who sobbed through her explanation. It appears she had been pretending to be upbeat not to worry us. Tears overflowed from my eyes too. I woke Kevin to explain the situation. Realizing the gravity, Kevin sprang up, insisting we pick up Ashley immediately. After telling Ashley our plan, she responded in a weak voice. Henry, too, was exhausted. I suggested they both stay with us for a while. However, while Ashley was willing to accept, Henry rejected the proposal. Henry explained that due to work commitments, he simply couldn't leave. Reluctantly, it was decided that Ashley would return to our home, and about an hour after the call, I went to pick her up. Upon arrival at home, there was Ashley, visibly exhausted. She seemed to be mentally drained, clearly not her usual self. I instinctively hugged Ashley tightly. "I'm sorry, I can't get away from work. If anything happens, please call me right away. I'll come as soon as I can," Henry said, hugging Ashley with a look of concern. Seeing how much they loved each other made my heart ache. To think they were being put through so much distress. I felt a surge of anger towards Nicole. From that day on, Ashley began living with us, away from Henry. Compared to her previous state, she seemed to be slowly recovering. Though there were times she wasn't feeling well, seeing Ashley become a bit brighter was reassuring. A few months after moving in with us, Ashley safely gave birth to the child. Kevin and I were moved to tears with joy at the birth of our adorable grandchild. It reminds me of when Ashley was born. It's a moment too precious to forget, such a joyful event. Kevin and I looked at each other, reminiscing about the time when Ashley was born. Ashley, blushing with embarrassment, immediately called Henry. She had informed Henry when she went into labor, but he couldn't make it in time. Henry was unable to attend the birth, but Ashley joyfully informed him of their child's arrival. However, Ashley's expression darkened after making the call. She looked dejected after hanging up. "What's wrong?" I asked Ashley. "He can't come right away. But he said he's sending a gift, something I like," she said. Initially, Ashley was downcast, but she soon regained some of her spirits. It seems Henry was concerned about not being able to attend the birth and wanted to cheer Ashley up. He apologetically mentioned sending Ashley her favorite things. However, we suddenly felt something off about Henry. Even if he was busy with work, he should have made it a priority to be there for the birth of his child. This prioritization of work over childbirth made us slightly feel distrustful towards Henry. But since Ashley trusts him, we decided not to dwell on it further. Then, on the day Ashley returned from the hospital after giving birth, a gift from Henry arrived. Though they had been in touch, Ashley seemed sad about not being able to see Henry. Ashley was very pleased to receive the package. "Let's all enjoy this. I wonder what he sent. Knowing Henry, it must be something I love," Ashley said, opening the package with visible happiness. However, her joy quickly faded as her complexion turned pale upon opening it. As Ashley became suddenly quiet, we too looked inside the package. Inside was just a dirty rag. And within, a note simply stating, "Don't come back."
What is this? What does it mean?
What's this? Did Henry really send us this? Contrary to our shock, Kevin, visibly angry, threw the rag to the floor. It must be some kind of mistake. Surely, this is some kind of mistake. This doesn't make sense. Should we contact Henry? I gently asked Ashley, who had become silent and looked down, saying nothing more. However, Ashley remained silent, her face downturned, not speaking anymore. We focused on comforting Ashley, who was deeply distressed. To think she had to face this treatment after just giving birth. We couldn't bear to see Ashley so worn out. But then, an unexpected event occurred. Kevin came home from work earlier than usual, with a somewhat relieved look on his face. Before I could ask what happened, Kevin began to speak. "I contacted Nicole. It seems that was meant as a warning." I was shocked at Kevin's words, uttered with a heavy sigh. It turns out the perpetrator of the package was not Henry, but Nicole. Kevin had tried to reach out to Henry on the day the package arrived, but got no response. With no other choice, Kevin contacted Nicole and confronted her. He couldn't stand to see Ashley sad any longer. Nicole confessed to taking a package meant for Ashley from busy Henry, swapping it with a dirty rag, and sending it. While shocked at such an unexpected revelation, I couldn't understand why she would do such a thing. However, Kevin's expression remained stern.
Nicole was trying to protect Ashley by being harsh on her all this time.
Upon being pressed, Nicole confessed everything to Kevin. Nicole confessed that she had once heard from a drunken Henry about embezzling company funds. With the issue unresolved and Ashley's marriage to Henry hastily decided, Nicole panicked. To prevent Ashley from getting involved in any trouble, Nicole admitted to being harsh towards her. It was Nicole's way of advising Ashley to stay away from Henry. The shock left us speechless. But we couldn't let Ashley continue to be saddened by this. We wanted to push for a divorce immediately, but we knew neither Ashley nor Henry would agree. So, we took immediate action. First, we contacted Nicole. She seemed surprised to hear from us, but quickly apologized.
I was wrong. I'm truly sorry for everything.
While it was difficult to forgive Nicole for her weak apology to Ashley, we requested her cooperation to get Henry to confess. Nicole hesitated for a moment, stumbling over her words, but then agreed, acknowledging that it couldn't be overlooked. We decided to tell a grieving Ashley everything about Henry. We shared everything Nicole had told us, explaining that it was all done to protect Ashley. Initially, Ashley seemed incredulous, but she appeared to trust our words eventually. Shortly after giving birth, we finally received a call from Henry, who had not once called or shown concern for Ashley since the birth. There was no way Kevin and I could forgive that. We were infuriated by the fact that he hadn't attended the birth nor had he made any contact after the birth. "Is Ashley okay? Now that work has calmed down, I should be able to stay in touch," Henry said, seemingly unconcerned. Anger welled up at Henry's indifferent demeanor as he spoke. I briefly updated him on Ashley's condition and then quickly ended the call. To think Henry had deceived Ashley, who was raising a child on her own, and embezzled company money. We could no longer forgive Henry. A few days later, Nicole provided us with a recording of Henry's confession. His voice on the recording showed no remorse, speaking as if the matter was already resolved. He seemed utterly unconcerned about embezzling company funds and even mocked the deception of Ashley. "It's all over now, isn't it? I've got a beautiful woman and have played the part of a good husband," he said. To think he thought of Ashley in such a way. With all the evidence compiled, I handed it over to Ashley. Ashley seemed resolved, initially saddened but unwilling to let her child be saddened, and sent the recording to Henry's company. It was 3 days later when Henry, unaware of these events, contacted Ashley. Suddenly, Ashley's mobile phone began to ring. There were multiple incoming calls from Henry. Ashley, now a protective mother, answered the phone with a strong stance. "What? I'm busy, you know. What's this about? Explain yourself. Why do you know about the embezzlement?" Henry's voice roared through the phone. Kevin frowned at Henry's blatant anger. Henry's voice grew even louder. "I'll be fired if this continues. Can't you, as my wife, speak to the company for me?" It appears the company's president had seen the evidence Ashley sent, leading to Henry's dismissal and a demand for compensation. Moreover, the company threatened to report him to the police if he didn't pay the damages. Henry must have contacted Ashley in a panic. Ashley sighed heavily at Henry's selfishness. "That's your own fault, isn't it? I don't know anything about that," she responded dismissively. Henry began to show his irritation. The sound of something being thrown could be heard over the phone. "What's with that attitude? Acting all high and mighty when you don't even earn money." I was stunned to hear such unprecedented shouts through the phone. To think such a person had been close to Ashley. But then, Kevin, who was right beside me, became furious and yelled back at Henry on the phone. "Enough is enough. Don't drag Ashley into this. This is all you're doing, yet you blame others." It was rare for the usually de-mannered Kevin to get angry. But his voice was filled with a cold fury I had never heard before. Henry's voice trembled in response.
Well, there's a reason for this. It's not all my fault, you see."
Kevin raised his voice even more. "You've caused enough trouble for the company that's been good to you. Pay the compensation or I'll report you to the police myself." Henry, perhaps panicked by Kevin's threat, promised to pay the compensation. But that was not enough to appease Kevin. "I can't leave Ashley with a criminal like you. We'll be pursuing a divorce." Henry seemed not to expect such a reaction and tried to calm the situation with but the phone was hung up before he could finish. "Wait a minute." Later, Henry promised to pay the compensation in one lump sum to his company. Thanks to this, the matter didn't escalate to police involvement, and he was only dismissed from his company. Subsequently, Ashley and Henry quickly proceeded with their divorce. After that, there was no further contact from Henry. Following this incident, Nicole reflected on her son's failings and lack of integrity, offering us an apology. We then ceased all contact with Nicole and had no further dealings with her. Meanwhile, Ashley, along with Kevin and I, began to raise her child together. An old friend of Ashley's from the neighborhood returned to the area, and they started seeing each other frequently, along with the child. They spent holidays together like a real fae, and he seemed to cherish Ashley deeply. He always seems to be there for Ashley, actively participating in parenting. He has come to greet Kevin and I several times, and he's a very pleasant person. The child seems to have grown fond of him too, and judging by their interactions, remarriage might be happening soon. Seeing Ashley and our grandchild sing happily together has given us great peace of mind.